is up, Mayo Media Network? This is Keith Jamison. I go by Gator Guy 231 across the defense industry, and we have some midweek EPL soccer action. Really looking forward to it. You know, so often during the week we get stuck with like showdowns or some interleague. Not very often do we get 4-game EPL slates with 2 games at the same time. That's a true treat, the way this crazy season has gone. So looking forward to this slate. With there being 4 games, there's a really good chance that we see some ownership spread out. And here's the craziest thing. A lot of these teams don't have a ton to play for. We have one game specifically that has a ton going on, but we just saw that game on Saturday. I just broke it down for you guys on Friday night. We got Leicester versus Chelsea, another rematch. Based on the Liverpool results, there's a really good shot that, you know, these two could be duking it out for the 4th spot. Liverpool has a much easier run-in than either Chelsea or Leicester, so should be really interesting. But funny enough, and I'm going to go over this again in a minute, but both Chelsea and Leicester aren't that DFS friendly. They are playing against each other, who both are very pragmatic, defensive sides that control possession. So that might be one of the least DFS friendly games. So even though that is the game with the most stakes, it might be the one that we're avoiding. And it's the last game. It's the game we won't have lineups for. So, you know, it kind of works out that way. It's an interesting slate because of that. So going to get all into all that shortly. But a quick reminder is we need you to like, we need you to comment, we need you to mash that subscribe button. It really does help continue to grow this awesome network that Pat and his staff have set up, and, you know, allowed soccer to be part of it, which is just fantastic. If this is your first time playing DFS soccer, you know, sit back and enjoy. It's a great sweat. This slate's a little bit different. I'm going to go over some strategies because of the stagger starts, but you know, it's a great DFS sport. Absolutely my favorite game to play. And I'm looking forward to helping you. And if you want to get more of my content, not just EPL, but, you know, we do all sorts of things over at FSI. I want you to check out my site, FSI DFS. You can find me on Twitter at GatorGuy231. You can find a link to it. But all of our content is on YouTube. FSI DFS, search in your bar. We'd love for you to jump aboard, subscribe, and see all the awesome work we're doing there as well. All right, let's get into the soccer. Let's start off with odds and kind of just overall strategy. So we have Manchester United hosting Fulham. Manchester United has number 2 locked down. I guess not number 2 locked down. They all but locked down. They need a win. They're minus 284 favorites, so the biggest favorite on the slate. Hosting already relegated Fulham, who's plus 759. That is a 3 total. The other game going on at the same time will be Southampton hosting Leeds. That is a very, very square game. We have Leeds as a slight road favorite at plus 145. This is a 3.25 total. So your first 2 games where you're going to get lineups at the same time are your 2 biggest totals. Manchester City's already won the league. All eyes for Manchester City is going to be on the Champions League final. They're a minus 208 favorite to already not going to be relegated Brighton. Couldn't think of the right words. Already staying up Brighton at plus 606. Only a 2.75 total. Then finally, we have Chelsea versus Leicester. Chelsea is a solid favorite, minus 138, but only a 2.25 total. Funny for them to be a minus 138 favorite after losing to Leicester on the weekend 1-0. All right, let's go strategy. First off, you'll notice when you see the player pool, I don't have Kevin De Bruyne listed. I think there's a really good chance that Manchester City is the favorite that you kind of go past. We know with Manchester City that it's always kind of, we call it, you know, roulette, City roulette, because none of them have phenomenal floors. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne has the biggest floor, but we have so many midfielders in this slate. I don't know you want to use one of those spots on Kevin De Bruyne. And then you look at the rest of the city and you go, all right, you know, Riyad Mahrez, probably, you know, 8 to 10 floor. I still think he's a solid play. Depending on who's starting that left wing, is going to be Foden, is it going to be Sterling, is it going to be Torres? Who are they going to start at striker? Is it going to be Kevin De Bruyne for 60 minutes? Because, you know, Kevin De Bruyne I love, but if he's not going to play 90 minutes, I can definitely go elsewhere. So you have all these questions with City. So realistically, especially under 3 total, I think you can go to other places and have better floors and have better overall plays. So that's my plan of attack. I think that the first 2 games, you very well might just fill your lineup up, with the exception of maybe like a goalie and 1 fill-in. I think you can easily, and you'll notice on this list, I think you can easily fill your lineups from there. If you are, and here's the last bit of strategy before we go into the players, if you are waiting on a player, right? So if you're waiting, you decide that I'm silly for fading Kevin De Bruyne, you're going to play him, or you're playing some, you know, Mason Mount from the final game, or you're going to play Reece James or Yuri Tielemans, who I think is a great play. make sure you are putting those players in your utility spot, because if for some reason they do not start, you don't want to be locked into just a midfielder or just a forward or just a defender. And the utility spot, you can play all those positions and are going to have so many more options than if you build your utility early, only like, let's say, have Yuri Tielemans left in the final game. He doesn't start, and now you're scrambling. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's talk about the players. Starting top to bottom based on strategy, Bruno Fernandes, I think it's the lock and load on the slate. He is the cover boy of this article. There's not much to say about Bruno Fernandes. He's on PKs. He takes some sets. He shoots a ton. He creates chances. He is just a DFS dream, and he's only 9,200. We easily, routinely pay 10,000, 11,000 for Bruno Fernandes. So as a big favorite at home, and I think that United is likely to play starters this game, rest next game, because one of the biggest games of probably OGS's career or tenure at United will be in the Europa League final. So I think that realistically, he's going to try to get the starters one more run here, then get them some rest. So as long as he's in, Bruno Fernandes is lock and load. Great news is we'll know first game. Second play, Rafinha from Leeds. I've talked up Rafinha probably every single Leeds slate. Now this is a different Rafinha since he came back from injury last game. He did not take set pieces. That went to Stuart Dallas and Jack Harrison. There's a really good shot that Rafinha will be back on some sort of set pieces. Maybe he doesn't. But here's the thing with Rafinha. The set pieces are just like icing on the cake. Rafinha is super active in open play. Crosses a ton, shoots a ton, creates chances. He's forward eligible, which is going to be big on the slate. There's a ton of midfielders. Like if I could play 6 midfielders, I would play 6 midfielders. You can't. DraftKings doesn't let me. So, we got to fill that forward spot. I think Rafinha has the best floor of a forward, but unlike other slates, because of the lack of set pieces, I by no means think that Rafinha is a must. Like if you can't fit him, but because you're going to be fitting other midfielders, I think it's okay. And by the way, once I finish up, I am going to tell you guys what my core 3 plays are going to be. So first off, we have Bruno, and I'll get the other 2 when we get there. Phil Foden is probably my favorite city piece. Especially if you don't see Kevin De Bruyne, would have a share of set pieces, has been playing left wing. I do expect him to start this game. Phil Foden is just an absolute stud. I think that, when he plays, he's close to probably, he and Kevin De Bruyne are the best forwards on City, followed by Riyad Mahrez. But, if Phil Foden doesn't get double digits, I think you're surprised. But at 8,700, I do question if that makes the most sense on the slate. And a large part is because of core play number 2, James Ward-Prowse, probably the best, I'll go top 3. Free kick taker and the EPL, probably up there with Kevin De Bruyne and probably up there with Bruno. But James Ward-Prowse at 8,600 has an absolute monopoly of set pieces. He rarely to never subs out. And this game, Leeds versus Southampton, I think is going to be where you have a ton of DFS value. That is 3.25 total. It's going to be very, very open. We saw that with Southampton on the weekend. We've seen that with Leeds all season. There's just a lot of DFS goodness in this game. I think these two are just going to go back and forth. There's not going to be a lot of defense, and it should be just DFS gold. So I'd love James Ward-Prowse at 8,600. He's core play number 2. So we got Bruno. James Ward-Prowse is your first 2 core plays. Riyad Mahrez at 8,400 is up there with Rafinha in terms of my favorite forward options. Riyad Mahrez takes a share of set pieces. We know he was just absolutely stunningly awesome versus PSG in both legs. Scored 2 goals in the last game, was dangerous the entire time. And realistically, that was just form that carried over from the EPL, where he's just been awesome. Yes, he got rest the last 2 games. I think that he gets back in the side here, probably plays 90 minutes as a result too, in terms of just being primed and being ready for Champions League final. So I think at 8,400, especially if you don't see Kevin De Bruyne, you're going to have, a share of set pieces. So 8,400 for Mahrez makes a lot of sense. Yuri Tielemans, we're going to have to wait for the final game. And I'm going to make a note. Yuri Tielemans was awesome and just an amazing player, right? But for DFS, just being an amazing player isn't always enough. We need to have you have some form of set pieces. We need you to be crossing the ball, shooting, all those things. And if Mark Albrighton is in for Leicester, Mark Albrighton has been taking set pieces over Yuri Tielemans. Yuri Tielemans took those sets from James Madison, who, for 2.5 to 3 years of DFS soccer has been like one of the lock and loads of the EPL. There's always the fear in the back of my mind when I see Tielemans and Madison in, that Madison could take them back from Tielemans. And now I'm paying 6,800 for a central lying midfielder who, while is a great player, is not going to hit value of 6,800 unless he scores a goal or gets an assist, which, if you follow the way I've played, if this isn't your first time watching, we like to, enter into a world where we're going to hit value and we're going to get 9, 10, 11 DK points without a goal or assist. And if Yuri Tielemans does not have set pieces, it's really hard for him to do. So if Yuri Tielemans is in with just James Maddison, we expect him to have set pieces, and he's a great play at 6,800. But if you see Mark Albrighton and you have Yuri Tielemans, you should be worried. And I would tell you, I would switch to Mark Albrighton, who did not start in the FA Cup. And so probably is in for a spell, especially if he's in that right wing back position. He has a great chance to get you crosses. That's what Mark Albrighton does. He loves to cross the ball. So that's the Yuri Tielemans play. Just proceed with caution and make sure you have a plan if you end up on Tielemans. Edison Cavani, not normally my type of player, but I think it's a good spot and a good price. He versus Rashford would be really close to my favorite United forwards. And you could also make an argument for Mason Greenwood. I'm putting Edison Cavani in here because he's the cheapest, sub 7K, great scoring odds. Just re-signed with United for another season. And when Cavani starts, United is a different offensive team. I don't know what to expect from Fulham. I would expect with them being relegated to be pretty open. Who knows if they'll rotate too. We saw them rotate a little bit versus Southampton, and Southampton had a pretty easy time of, potentially scoring even more than 2 goals. So I really like Edison Cavani's spot to potentially get a goal or assist. If he does score a goal, there's a really good shot that you're going to get 12 to 15 you're going to get close to 15 DK, even though, the joke in the DFS industry is the Cavani is he's one of the few guys that can score a goal and still not get 12 DK worth of points. But look, 12 DK at 6,600 is a great spot and fills a forward spot. Stuart Dallas, I love the play. I think he's going to be really close to a core play for me. It's just to depend on builds, but at 6,100, he has taken over set pieces, or at least half the set pieces recently. He's been splitting with Jack Harrison, who's at 8,000, who's just because of the prices didn't make the list. But Stuart Dallas kind of roams all over the pitch. He's played right back. He's played central midfielder. He's played left midfielder. He's played right midfielder. He's just he can do everything. And now he's taking set pieces. He always seems to get into the box and just to be an offensive threat. So even before set pieces, he was always a guy that you wanted to consider because he would always show up in good spots, show up with a goal, score 2 goals versus City in the biggest in Leeds' huge upset earlier this season. Stuart Dallas is just a damn good player. And if you're going to get Stuart Dallas at 6,100 and a super open game with set pieces, I love the play. Luke Shaw is our third core play for you. Luke Shaw, has had like a DFS resurgence. I remember at the beginning of the season, I had a joke, last year that I just can't play Luke Shaw because he would be like 3,600 and you'd be like, oh man, United's a huge favorite. He has to be good. And he would end the game, like never get in an offensive spot, end with like 1 cross, 1 tackle. United would be up 2-0, concede in the 90th minute. So you don't get the clean sheet. And you're like, I paid 3,600, which sounds like a great deal for a fullback. And I got 1.7 DK. It was awful. This year, complete turnaround. Luke Shaw has been one of the more offensive defenders in the EPL. He's up there with Lucas Dean and Trent Alexander-Arnold for the most consistent DFS producers from the defender spot. And the best part is he's sub 6K. He takes a majority of United set pieces. Now, if for some reason Luke Shaw is not in and it's Alex Telles, it's the same deal. Alex Telles goes on and takes the majority of set pieces. Bruno might take a few more. But whoever starts at left back for United, because of their price, because of the matchup, is just, to me, an easy plug and play. Finally, just to give you guys a punt at forward, is Rodrigo. He was Leeds' record signing in the offseason from Valencia. Rodrigo is a Spanish international, has played in huge games for the Spanish national team. And now that he's back from injury, has scored 3 goals in the last 2 games. Probably with that result is due for a start. And at 5,500, in my favorite game to target, and filling a forward spot while being super hot form goal scoring wise, I think 5,500 for a guy of Rodrigo's quality makes a ton of sense. All right, that is 10 plays to get your builds around. Keep in mind for your core, start with Bruno, play James Ward-Prowse and Luke Shaw, and that should provide you a great start for your cash games and to provide you a great floor for lineups, whether you just play cash or you want to go into the GPP arcades as well. Thank you all so much for watching. And once again, if you want to find more of my content, find me at GatorGuy231 on Twitter and search for FSI DFS on your YouTube search bar. We'd love for you to become a subscriber at the FSI channel as well. Thank you all once again for watching me on the Mayo Media Network. Make sure you hit the like, comment, and subscribe on this as well. And good luck tomorrow. See ya.